This bike is my daily rider. I buy these things dirt cheap on Kijiji, and when I'm bored with them and I want some money for a new one, I sell them dirt cheap on Kijiji and buy another dirt cheap bike. I've been riding this Haro all year. It still works great, it's still in good shape, but I'm bored and I want a new one, so it's time to sell it. But I really like these wheels. I don't want to get rid of them. In the grand scheme of things, they're nothing special. But steel bearing hubs, double wall rims, all black, in good condition, matching, and they got some nice tires wrapped around them. So I really want to hang on to these, use them for another build later. To that end, I'm lacing up some fresh wheels. Well, kind of fresh. Okay, not really fresh. Freshly laced, but old parts involved. These two hubs are bare bones basic BMX hubs that I got off a used bike a long time ago and I've had sitting around. And these rims are old, but they're pretty nice rims. They're in reasonably good shape, they're super heavy duty, and they got the drilling there to save some weight. To lace wheels, ideally you want to be doing it properly with the right tools, the main one being a proper truing stand, and you want to have measured the spokes out to the proper length. In this case, these are BMX wheels, so there's only a few different spoke size possibilities, and as long as everything is roughly the same size, you can be pretty sure everything's going to fit nicely. The lacing pattern on BMX bikes is also basically the same across the board. Almost every BMX bike out there, unless it's a race bike, is going to use a 3-cross pattern, meaning each spoke crosses 3 other spokes on its way to the rim. So each spoke will go over 2 and then under 1, or vice versa, under 2 and over 1. So we're going to start with our rear wheel here. Now these are some old rusty spokes in an old hub and an old rim. And greasing the spokes is important enough on a new rim. It's super important when you're using used parts, because it's going to save you a ton of hassle. Everything's going to go together nice and smooth, and you're going to be able to get an even tension across the spokes. Start by dropping one spoke down into the top layer of the hub and finding the appropriate hole on your rim. In this case, this rim uses something called cross drilling, where the spokes go to the opposite side of the rim. So this spoke is going to be going to the bottom side instead of to the top side. So in this case, I'm going to go for the hole right next to the valve. I'm going to put a little dab of grease on the spoke, spoke through the hole, and nipple on a few threads. Next, you want to fill up the hub the rest of the way. You want to put one spoke going down in every other spoke hole there. And then, going into the rim, you want to have the spoke you just put in, 1 hole, 2 hole, 3 hole, 4th hole, and you put it in the 4th spoke hole. And then keep going until you finish the pattern for this one part of the rim. And then your wheel will look roughly like this. The next step is kind of the trickiest one, because the pattern basically just repeats itself all the way around, but finding the perfect spoke to start the second side is kind of the issue. You're going to be pushing it down again, but in this case it's going out the other side of the hub, meaning it's going to be an outbound spoke instead of an inbound spoke. So what you want to do is find your valve hole, which is right here for me, and find the spoke that's nearest to it. Now you're going to twist the spokes one direction or the other, and you want to make sure they don't cross over the valve hole. So the valve hole is right here, my first spoke is on this side, so I'm going to use the next one nearest the valve hole on this side of the valve hole. I'm going to take that first spoke, go down right beside it, to find the nearest hole on the other side of the hub, and bring it up to the corresponding spoke hole on the other side. And with that, you should be able to complete this pattern, so you have a spoke in every 2 holes, and then 2 empty holes up around the rim, and then in every other hole in both sides of the hub. And now you have something roughly like that. Because this rim has that cross lacing I mentioned, everything is already twisting to one side because it's just the way it wants to sit. But on a normal rim, this is where you'd have to twist it one way or the other. So in this case, my valve hole is right here. So it comes straight down, and there's no spokes directly crossing over it. These 2 spokes are just to the side of it. Next, you're going to start getting the spokes going the other way. So I still have the drive side facing up, but instead of putting the spokes down into the wheel, I'm going to effectively be pushing them up now. You can either do this having the wheel this way and literally pushing up, or just flip the wheel and go that way. I'm going to find my valve hole again, and I'm going to eyeball out 3 spokes coming out of this side. 1, 2, 3. Right there, assuming the spoke is long enough. 1 second. There we go. I think everything's going to sit nicely. Again, nothing crossing over the valve hole, and this was over 1, under 1. And again, finish the pattern. Now that you have your drive side laced up, it should look somewhat like this. It's almost like a whole wheel now. So now we just have the non-drive side is missing its inboard spokes. There's already a lot of spokes in there now, so this is where you have to be really careful not to scratch up your rim if you're using new parts. These are old rims though. I don't really care. They're already covered in scratches. So I might scratch it a bit more, but try not to if you're doing this yourself. Just like that. And now that you've got the one in this side, just keep the pattern going until you have them all filled up, and you'll be done with your lacing. And then you have a perfectly laced up wheel. So the lacing is a little bit complicated, but I mean it's only half the job. The other half of the job is getting all these spokes tensioned up without taking the wheel too much out of true and getting it nice and straight. If you have a truing stand, that's relatively easy. But we don't have a truing stand here, so we're going to have to figure out our way to get these nice and tight while getting that nice and straight. So check this out. Your frame's a truing stand. How cool is that? If you have brakes, it's even easier because you just use your brake pads as the point to visualize where the wheel's out of true, just like you would on a regular truing stand. In this case though, we're using a zip tie. If you zip your zip tie backwards so it's not actually engaged, you can tighten it and then pull it back off again without wasting a zip tie. And it means you can move it to multiple places to check the wheel at different points. So, just gonna put that on there. Trim that to, let's say, almost an inch hanging off. And anywhere that zip tie touches, we know we have to true the wheel. So you take your appropriately sized truing key, and you don't want to put too much tension on any one spoke to start with. Just kind of want to start by the valve, and first maybe do a little run around. Make sure all the spokes are at just the same point right at the end of the thread so you have a baseline. I'm switching truing keys. This one doesn't quite fit nicely between the spokes with the cross-laced rim. That's smaller and more convenient. I'm not a great teacher when it comes to truing wheels like this and getting the tension just right. I'm also not using one of those tension meters, so if you want a better how-to for this part of it, I recommend looking at channels like Park Tool. Like Calvin from Park Tool is absolutely amazing. There's plenty of channels that can tell you in really good detail how to true up and tension a wheel properly. This is going to be a long process, so I'm going to get at it and get back to you in about 10-15 seconds. But for now, I'm going to get to it. There we go. We have a wheel. That is much straighter than before. It's all nice and tight. All I gotta do is put a spare tire and tube on there and put them on the bike, and then it's all good to go. Speaking of tires, remember these? These are the old Odyssey Aikens. I love these. They had a skinny little semi-slick in the back. They got the nice knobby up front. These are nice tires. I miss when these were popular. Yeah, I don't know how nicely you can see that, but it's a little bonus. Got the logo lined up with the valve hole perfectly in there. Woo. So that's it. I know it wasn't the most informative, but hopefully I gave you a rough idea of how to put a basic wheel set together out of spare parts. The whole point of this video is don't throw out your spare parts. Keep everything you have, because you never know when you're going to need it. And a lot of it can come in really handy when you least expect it. Found a buyer for the bike nice and quick. It's my buddy William. He's picking this bike up. He's gonna be riding this as like daily rider, dirt jumps, skate parks, all that. This is his first high-end BMX. We're hoping this lasts longer than the base models he was riding earlier. So now we need to do a video at Iceland or something?
Yeah.
Dirt jumps, maybe Sunnyside, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
So yeah, your old parts are worth saving and worth reusing. Save everything, reuse everything, recycle bikes!